Hello kindred longevity lifestyle designers, this is Gavin here with secretsoflongevity.com. Canadian pediatricians have just recently reversed their 17-year-old policy on circumcision for male babies. Now this is obviously sort of like a general board decision in terms of, I guess, the mainstream recommendations that they make and that they stand for. There's obviously going to be some doctors within the group of pediatricians who are pediatricians who would be against it, perhaps, I would hope. And this video is not going to be about too much on the specifics of all the different arguments that exist out there for and against. We're going to specifically quickly go over a few of the health issues, or at least the pros and cons around health, and in my opinion that greatly overrides any of the other bullshit that gets tagged onto this, such as the spiritual or religious ideas, the ideas around trying to look and fit in with other males that are of an older generation. At least that's what some people think when they're making the choice to circumcise their child. And yes, overall Canada has a much lower circumcision rate than the US, but this in no doubt helps with the complete abolishment of this barbaric, outdated, unnecessary, and completely irrelevant practice. There's certainly unique times when surgical circumcision intervention is necessary for when there's sort of an abnormal development of the sort of foreskin, and that usually happens when someone's older. I forget the exact term, but I've talked to people who've had that done. And just like any other necessary surgery to make something function in the body better, that's not a big deal. But when you go against someone's human right, I would even call it, and alter their body against their will before they have a say in it, you're causing harm to them. It's a barbaric practice. There's no getting around that. This isn't to put anyone down who has been circumcised. This isn't to say body modification of any kind is wrong. I know lots of people who have done things to their bodies that some people would consider painful and harmful, but that's what they chose to do, and that changed them for the better, whether it's a certain type of piercing, a tattoo, even various types of modifications that involve cutting, even sometimes cutting of the genitals in certain ways. And there's people that get purposeful circumcisions in adulthood, and they've made the informed choice after the age of 18 because that's what their religion calls for and they want to fit in with them. That's totally valid. The whole myth around babies feeling less pain is complete bullshit, and that can be easily shown by the screaming or the readings of them when you hook them up to various types of electronic equipment to read their nervous system's reaction to the slicing off of actual flesh and in highly sensitive nerve tissue. And I said I wasn't going to get into that too much, but I just wanted to just cover those few points. Essentially, when the doctors look at it, they do take a good stance in terms of looking at it purely from the medical standpoint and getting all that religious baggage out of the way, all that cultural baggage away. But I do wonder how much this recent overturn is actually influenced by some of these groups that are pro-circumcision. It's quite unfortunate if that's the case. I don't know, obviously, for sure if that's true or not. But if we just look at the facts, the top points that are in the favor of circumcision is reduced risk of certain STIs or STDs, and that's, the big one is AIDS. It's advocated in a lot of parts of Africa that circumcision can reduce the transmission of that. And by all means, that should not be the way of preventing the spread of it. It should be condoms and more conscious sexuality and choosing your partner more carefully. Then you have a really small fraction of reduction in penile cancer, which is an extremely rare form of cancer anyways. And that just about sums up the realistic benefits that come from it. Some people over-exaggerate these benefits and try to make it sound like it's necessary for good health, and it's simply not true. Yes, there's more sayings about it's cleaner, you don't get smegma, etc. You're going to be in the shower whether you have foreskin or not. Things are going to get clean whether you wash down there or not. And if you're not washing down there, things are going to get funky whether you have foreskin or not. And just by haphazardly washing down there, you're going to be cleaning that part anyways. So the idea that it takes extra time or whatever if you have foreskin is pretty redundant. You could make the same argument about your hair. If you have hair anything beyond a buzz cut, you're more likely to get head lice If you hang around dirty places and share hats with people who have head lice and roll around in the muck all day, yeah, that's true. But a lot of people have good enough cleanliness and are hygienic enough that it's not even an issue. The same thing with sexually transmitted diseases. If you're conscious, and most people are these days, about your sexuality, you're not going to be getting these things. And it's not like it's a massive reduction in transmission rates anyway. People who are circumcised still get these diseases. Another example would be like, should we at birth take out the tonsils and appendixes of all babies? Those are both fairly invasive procedures. No doctor in his right mind would do that to a newborn unless there was an issue with those areas. But you could say 100% reduction in appendicitis and tonsillitis in babies who have had those things removed. That doesn't make it right. Those are actually parts of the immune system. Give us better health for those areas, and the inflammation of those areas indicates other lifestyle things going on that are unhealthy. And interestingly enough, the foreskin, the reason why it makes you more susceptible to certain STIs is because that is immune system tissue. The foreskin is actually part of your immune system. So there's a weird thing going on in our medical system when there's all these cutting off solutions to various types of infections that can transpire in our body's immune system. You look at any part of the immune system in a major way: the spleen, appendix, tonsils, foreskin, thymus gland. These are all parts of the body that medical systems actually known for removing. And that's not cool. There's other ways to actually, when you have inflammation in those areas before it gets too bad, to reverse whatever your body's going through. And that, cutting something off is not the solution unless it's immediate and life endangering. If we look at the health benefits of not being circumcised, there's a whole host of them, from extreme things to more long-term things. So as an infant, there's the risk of blood loss and death. There's cases every year of babies that die from botched circumcisions. There's obviously the risk of something going wrong and the penis head or the whole tip of the penis being cut off, and obviously that's extremely damaging and horrendous for the child's sex life later on in life. Erectile dysfunction is much higher in those who've been circumcised, and basically what happens is when you have the foreskin pulled back and the head of the penis always exposed in clothing, over a lifetime it actually reduces sensitivity. That's going to result in less of an ability to feel what's happening during lovemaking, and obviously less ability to stay erect. On the flip side, some people try and say, well, circumcision makes me last longer in bed and all this stuff. But that's actually not the cause of premature ejaculation. It's too much sensation. It's actually more of a mental thing. So foreskin or not, premature ejaculation is not dependent on whether or not you have foreskin or not. The nerves there enhance sexual pleasure. It's been shown time and time again from people's personal experience when they do have circumcision as an adult that they notice the reduction in feeling. And this has also been shown in the studies on nervous system reaction with various machinery. Then of course you also kind of have to ponder the origins of circumcision. Where did it really come from? Of course it's not 100% known, but one theory is that when you're circumcised, the little bit of skin that attaches from the very bottom head of the penis to the foreskin, I believe it's called the frenulum. It's kind of like a thing under your tongue that connects your tongue to the bottom of your jaw. That piece of skin, if you pull your foreskin back too far, it's going to pull, and it actually can be painful. When you've been circumcised and that's gone, your foreskin can be pulled back quite forcefully, and you don't have that same sudden sensation that kind of makes you want to stop. So some people actually think that rape is more possible when you've been circumcised. And that could have been one cause for it originally being a practice that was done in a barbaric tribal cultures to allow them to do that to their wives or their women. And that's pretty disgusting if that's the actual origins of it. That's just a theory, but that's just one thing to take into consideration, which I think is pretty important in understanding the mindset that it changes in an individual from a young age when this is happening. I'm not calling people who are circumcised rapists by any means, but that's a factor in there that affects people's mindset. So it's my hope that pediatricians will come to their senses, not be these raging idiots with overturning this long-term policy that Canada's had, much more advanced than the US on this. The US is starting to move ahead, and I think the intactivists really do have this one well underway in terms of pushing for a ban on circumcision so that we don't keep taking away the right of people, boys, to maintain that until they have the wherewithal to be able to make that choice themselves. People often make the comparison to female circumcision in some African cultures. It's not exactly the same because in those cases they're removing a lot more than just the protective covering over a sensitive part of the genitals. So it would be the equivalent would be removing the clitoral hood as opposed to the whole clitoris and clitoral hood, which is commonly done. But of course, genital mutilation is genital mutilation. We need to stop the hypocrisy around that in Western culture. It would be unacceptable to talk about genital mutilation against girls in any way, so let's abandon and outlaw and ban it for guys when they're born. Personally, I stand against it for even religious purposes because, you know, those people, even though they're having a baby under their religious doctrine, that baby needs to make that choice themselves. We're all born with the same rights in a secular society, and there's certain codes and long-standing traditions in a number of religions that actually overstep onto other people's rights. And as a society, I think we need to stand up against that and call bullshit on this. So with that, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, favorite, and share the video if you feel so inclined. With that, take care and embrace life without limits.